Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode of Slay the Stars. It is our Cour 5 recap. I'm just going to say it. We're like halfway through the first season now, basically. This is the midpoint, and we are going to be covering episodes 64 to 79. So, why are you laughing at me? What did I do? I'm not restarting this. We're going to leave it in.
I'm laughing at the look Arthur gave me.
Oh. You guys giggle at each other too much. I'm going to put up like a blinder. Like a cardboard divider.
I'm like a parrot. I will giggle at myself if you put a mirror in front of me.
Anyway, so this episode is going to serve a couple purposes. So, for anybody who is just trying to jump into the show and doesn't have time to listen to 79 episodes, you could just listen to each Cour recap one after another to kind of get an idea of where we are and jump right in at episode 80. Or, if you are somebody who's been with us from the beginning and needs a little refresher, go back, listen to the Cour recaps, and that'll at least hit the highlights for you. And without further ado, let's start with episode 64, A New Beginning. This episode was one that I was really excited about, not just because we were starting Arc 2, but because the initial scene was something that once the idea was brought up was so clear in my mind, and that is the funeral scene. Starting with a very somber moment after we ended the last arc with this huge fight at Stellium, where, of course, our protagonists were successful but suffered some heavy casualties. And so in that, we had decided that we wanted to showcase Char's moment, where he said some words about Karina, a character who was a little... trying for him throughout the entire show, but hopefully we kind of also showcased like their begrudging, respecting love for each other by the end. And also Zem saying a few words about her mother, Dahlia, who also was a very trying character throughout the series and only tried to redeem herself at the last moment. So let's start with Char.
Bitch.
Char. Arthur, Char, whatever, you had a moment to talk about Karina. What was that like in character?
I think that was the ultimate culmination of their relationship with each other, which was because Karina was the equivalent of his bully in primary school, like whatever you want to call it, because technically it wasn't high school, but it was. So that the fact that it went from that as the relationship to now, which was that they both grew up, but very differently, and they still ended up essentially at the same place. I think that was a nice little pin in the end of that little story arc.
Yeah, and I think we learned a lot of interesting things about Karina, such that she was with Zem and Char when they were babies, somehow at some point whenever they were dropped off with their adoptive parents, and Karina ended up forging a strong relationship with Char's parents, which I think at first maybe sort of annoyed Char.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of showed like the exact opposite of how, or not the exact opposite, but like the different paths you can take, essentially starting from the same place and ending up where Zem is, or Char is, or Karina is. Not meant to, not that. I mean, she is in the ground, but that's not what I meant. But that woof. But that even though like it's very much a character arc of you don't have to know where you're going necessarily to still end up in the correct place.
Yeah.
Call it destiny, but I think that's wrong.
Right. And Zem/Jen, having that time to say goodbye to your mother, who was... She was a very... I've been told that one of the things that some people love and also hate about this show is that all of our quote-unquote bad guys are just different shades of gray. We
People
don't
hate
have
this
a lot
show?
of...
Give me names.
We don't have any like mustache twirling bad guys, right? And I think Dahlia was a great example of that.
Well, first of all, that's real life. I mean, like, They're there for every person. You're going to be the hero for someone, but you're also going to be the bad guy for someone. So that is life. So I challenge that thought.
Yep.
But when it comes to Zem and her mom, I think that in the end, the way that that played out, the way that Dahlia died, is the best case scenario for both of them. Because I don't think that they ever would have reconciled. Like, I don't know that there was anything that Dahlia ever could have done outside of die that would have at least begun the course of changing Zem's opinion about her. And she was solidly her mother, but I think that with seeing how Shar grew up and just other people, knowing that, like, yes, this is my mother, but she's not very motherly. I don't know. It was bittersweet for sure.
I mean, and we've talked about that, not just specifically with Dahlia, but even with Dalius, which is that the warrior's death was the only way to resolve that plot, is that there was no reconciliation past a certain point.
Right.
No,
So,
I
but,
agree.
and that's the other thing too, is this show was predicated on the fact that this is a character-focused story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there is not going to be a mustache-twirling bad guy because those characters are not very human.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And I think even some of the bad guys we have on the horizon, who we know they have names and they are not human themselves, their motivations are still very human. Not to jump ahead too far, but Shar in 78 says to Nex, like, really, like, this is revenge, this is spite, and Nex is just like, yeah, like, what else? What else would it
there?
be?
Yeah.
And I think that with Dahlia, and I do want to talk about her for a moment because I loved Dahlia as a character for the same reason that I loved Dalius as a character. And it's because both of these people were in Zem's life, and it's easy to look at them and say, like, oh man, like, these are two huge betrayals for Zem, and they were. But I don't think that Dalius and Dahlia, neither of them actually wanted to betray Zamira. I think they both had very personal reasons for making the choices that they did, and they made them out of selfish. It was selfish the way they did it. Dahlia wanted to be rich. She wanted to be powerful. Dalius is just trying to gain all this power to try to right some wrong he committed in the past, unsure of what. And Zem was a casualty for them, but they both loved her in their own way.
Zem was their favorite tool. That's what she was. I don't think that they were capable of loving another human as another human. But I do think that they favored her, and that's why they thought that they loved her, because she was their favorite tool.
I say that is true for Dalius, probably. I don't think it was true for Dahlia. In my mind...
Well, from our perspective, that's the way it seems.
Yes, no, I get it. I totally get it. I just think, like, when I was inhabiting Dahlia's thought processes, in my mind, she and Kristoff had wanted to have children. For whatever reason, it did not work out. This opportunity comes along, and in that little core of that is, like, you can have whatever you want and you can take care of this child. And in Dahlia's mind, she's like, okay, I get both things that I want here. And so she started from a point of, like, wanting to be a good mother, but I think that her other aspirations in life kind of took over.
Yeah. Well, maybe that is something we can visit on a side quest.
I think we should, because that actually leads us. Oh wait, no. Before we get into that, the glowy people on the ship. I had a whole thing planned for this, and we just never got there. Other things took over. Other, like, background stories and because in the very next episode, we go into Char's meeting with Kristoff and stuff. And so, like, we just kind of got away from it. The glowy people served a purpose, but we haven't figured out what they were yet. And that's something
I
we're
don't
kind
even
of out of
remember
time
glowy
on.
people.
Remember, there were these, like, ghost-like ethereal white beings, and they were interested in the orb. And when Zem went over to interact with them, they tried to possess her body.
Like the very first day or two.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. That happened.
I believe you. It's
Trauma.
No, I'm sad that we didn't get there, and that's nobody's fault. It's just we got swept away
a lot
in the
we
story.
wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, there's so much we've been
even with
accomplishing.
because we there was the decision to, instead of telling it linearly, we were going to jump back and forth.
Yeah, which I think did serve the story well. I think it helped with not having so much travel lag, and also not having so many episodes at the end of that fight where it's just like wrapping up. I mean, we'd still be wrapping up now if we were doing that.
Yeah, terrible for my memory, though.
It is rough on the memory. But into episode 65.
Especially when your memories are like,
Bad anyway.
on
That's true. That's true.
That's why we do these core recaps.
It's for us. It's much for us.
Yeah.
Episode 65. No longer a fool.
Great title. I love every single one of your titles.
the titles are so good.
They're good. They're good most of the time. There's a couple I wish I could have back. But I do enjoy them. Thank you. In this one, we do our first, well, I guess our second big flashback, which is Char going to meet up with Kristoff after the funeral moment. So Zem sees that her father did attend the funeral. They do not have an interaction there. Kristoff just leaves. So Char goes to see him. And this is something that Arthur and I spoke about on the side, where he said that he wanted to confront Zem's father if Zem did not choose to do so. And so I went to Jen and I said, does Zem want to confront Kristoff? She said no, and I said, all right.
And you even gave her a chance just in case she's changed
Yes,
her mind.
yeah,
That was not scripted in any way.
No.
It was just, hey, this is last chance, basically. And you're just like, no, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wrote her off. She wrote him off. Bye.
She did. And so, Arthur, where did that come from in Char?
I think that was mostly an outlet for him to justify being angry, because if he could assimilate his anger and put it towards something or someone's perspective on the world, then he could justify it. Because Char is subtly getting angrier as time goes by, and I wanted to make sure that there was both an avenue for Char to end the attachment to Zem's family, as well as giving him the compartmentalization of being angry at the world.
Yeah.
Because that's how he needs to justify it in his head.
Yeah, and honestly, I think you played it really well, because it was so obvious as I was going back and re-listening to this episode in preparation for this. Listening to Char, he was just so angry, and he would like question Kristoff, and Kristoff at that point was just defeated, right? He is just at the funeral of his wife,
Estranged wife.
he cared for her, and his daughter doesn't want anything to do with him, and he's a drunk and a loser and all those things. And so he's very open with Char, and he answers all of Char's questions. And I think that in and of itself felt more frustrating for Char, because I think Char was like, give me a reason. Give me a reason to just like snap
Unleash.
right now.
Yeah.
And Kristoff was not giving that reason.
And I think it also, because walking out of that conversation, Char has been, I mean, and this is at this point, 60-some episode realization that there can be some people that survive that absolutely had no, there was no reason for them to have a place. If this was written as a book, these characters would be randomly killed off miscellaneously, but this is more real life. It's just some people are, in other people's minds, a waste of space and a waste of time, but we don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the interesting things that I want to point out here is Shar is asking questions about when Shar and Zem were given to their adoptive parents. And Kristoff gives some details about the man who gave you to your parents. And I think that those details, like, he's sort of nondescript. People can't remember him whenever they look away. I'm just saying that idea is coming up again in some other things that happened in episode 78. So the connection there is not one-to-one, but it's there. So for anybody
Extremely
who is looking, there's some things to find here. But Kristoff says one thing that I wanted to talk all three of us about. He says, sometimes you get everything you want and it doesn't make you happy. I just felt like that was like a moment.
Well, that's in coming from a D&D perspective, most people don't have the same outlook on the spell wish.
Mm-hmm.
Where, I mean, I think most of us come at it from a mythological perspective of the wish is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
It's a horrifying prospect to be given exactly what you want and ask for.
Mm-hmm.
It's a burden.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility. And I think that people think, like, you think like, oh, you meet a genie and he gives you 3 wishes and you're like, oh, I want wealth and I want, whatever, fame and love. But it's never that cut and dry, because you're thinking of this in like the immediate satisfaction, the fun, the like glory side of things. You're not thinking of repercussions and the fallout and, like, for example, we're talking real life. Someone wins the lottery for like so much money and they don't go about things the right way. They end up poorer than they were before because it's just a responsibility. And, you think, oh, I've made it. I won the lottery. Like, that's it. But that's not what life is about.
Again, very human nature that almost everybody should not be trusted with power or responsibility to that extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we see that play out very much in the different ways that Shar's family and Zem's family unfold, right? We see Dahlia and Kristoff, their wishes are for themselves, right? Kristoff wants his own fishing boat. He wants to just be able to fish all day, and that's basically it. He wants to, have this relaxed existence. Dahlia wants power. She wants money. She wants to be in control of her own life. And because their wishes for themselves are very selfish, they pull themselves apart. We don't get to see what they were like before.
Yeah.
But we know that it wasn't this, right? Versus Shar's family, we don't know what they wished for, but we can guess.
Mm-hmm.
We can guess that maybe it was for their big break to become these, but they were already very talented. They weren't wishing for more talent. They're wishing for a big break. They're wishing for happiness for their family, right?
And I think the irony is that even without them being given their wishes and a child, they would have found a way to be happy anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. And it shows, especially essentially during Shar's rebellious phases during life, is they would have been happy anyway.
Yep.
Because they don't look at the glass half empty. They'd look at it half full.
Well,
Correct.
and like, I mean, even the fact that like their child is missing from their life and on the run with another child that they care about, but isn't their child, and instead a replacement child of sorts is in their care, and they're still happy. Like, they're still happy to take this on and make it work, even if they're on the run, even if they're in hiding, even if they're not doing shows anymore. But like, that would have never been good enough for Dahlia and Kristoff. Like, they were never going to be okay with any settling, any impression of settling.
Agreed. So, very, very interesting, very heartfelt episode. And in episode 66, we get another fairly big emotional moment in Unbound, which is where Rafe demonstrates his trust in both of you by no longer making you wear the little spiky things on the rings. He trusts you to remove them if and when you need to. And he gives you both gifts. I believe Zem's gift is a necklace with a little vial, and Char's is
I know, every time.
little glass vial. Yeah. And then Char's is some earrings.
Was it a set of earrings or was it just one earring?
I can't remember.
I think it was a set, whether or
Okay.
not you have two.
Well, I just could never remember because I think I've said in an episode like 50 episodes, 60 episodes before that he does have an earring.
I think maybe it was just one. Regardless.
We'll go back and look.
We can always look at it again. And we allude to Zem and Rafe's last time spending time together before she left. So that's the first thing I want to talk about here. Not that part. But these gifts. I feel very much like in this moment, Rafe is like the Russian mob boss giving you the little tooth that when you bite down, it cracks and kills you. That's sort of what he was alluding to in these gifts, you know? Something, you know, in
It's
your
a
time
little
of greatest need.
bit the opposite, isn't it?
I don't know, is it?
So what's crazy is that, like, I do have that feature to be brought to a 1, which, faced with certain things, could cause me to see what's in the vial.
Strength of the grave.
What's in the vial?
What's in the vial? This was a huge episode because we also had an interesting conversation between Kai and Char, where Kai talks a little bit about being a Kalishtar, and feeling at home out here amongst the stars, and trying to match the stars she sees with the stars from some old star maps that she had collected. And it's another tidbit from the story that we were telling in Milo and Mila in that temple. So, you know, just pointing that out for anybody who's following the Kalishtar arc. We're not done with it. We're still there. And then the biggest bomb of this episode, Char and Amara speak, which has not happened in a while. And the second reason this episode is called Unbound is because Amara breaks the bindings that she has put on the two of you.
And she rightfully guesses that she should not be talking to Zem.
She shouldn't talk to Jen either.
Char handles this conversation significantly better than I thought anybody would. Finding out that Amara had been holding both of them, and especially him, back from reaching their full potential power-wise, because the other gods are scared of them. What was Char thinking in these moments?
Well, I think on a character level, this is the equivalent of Jen and Zem not believing that Dalius would betray them. Because this is the equivalent of, oh, he has full trust that, yeah, was a terrible thing to do, but there was a reason for it. I mean, if he was going to be angry, it hasn't happened yet about that in particular.
Interesting. And when Zem found out, she was angry. So
You punched something. I forget what it was.
What was that moment like for Zem? Because Zem had never trusted Amara from the very beginning.
I mean, a little bit justified, you know? Like,
I agree.
It's when...
You didn't think she was real.
Right. And then immediately distrustful, because if you are real, where the fuck have you been? And, you know, from a logical, scientific type mind that does believe in magic, you know, it's kind of difficult to look at this god who has all this power, this set of gods who have all this power. I don't know. I think she's just there's a lot of emotions. It's a lot of, justification for not trusting her when she did meet her. Not believing that any of them would have any kind of, like, why would you be a god and need mortals? Like, what is that? What are you doing? Like, are you playing a game? Because fuck off. This is my life, bro. And, like, why would they play these kinds of games? Like, why toy with me if I'm your toy? Like, that's weird.
I agree. Maybe someday we'll get answers to those questions.
We're not halfway through anything.
And next we go to episode 67, A Real Headache. This episode was basically a giant training montage. Shar was working on his space moves. Zem worked out with Deshara. And Zem started getting the idea that potentially being unbound by these gods could mean that the governor is off. And you and Shar have maybe unlimited power growth abilities. Hard to say. We learned a little bit about goblin reincarnation, which I thought was hilarious and a super fun moment, which gave us some also lead into our perspective on life and death, which we just put on Patreon, if anybody's interested. And we ended this episode with a gross brain fight. And the science experiments begin.
Oh yeah, the goo. So much goo.
So much goo.
Every time there is a fight with goo, Shar always gets hit.
Yeah.
And
Always.
Zem almost
Swim in
never
it.
gets hit.
Not
Zem's
this
ready.
time.
This is the exception. And
This was
even
like an
then,
episode of Slime Time Live.
Yeah.
even then, you still ended up better than Shar,
Swimming in it.
Mm-hmm.
who basically wanted to set himself on fire.
I don't think there's much else to talk about here, though. So let's go into episode 68, which was Raiding Nexus, and episode 69, Entombed. We're going to take these together because they're basically the same sort of thing. We get our flashback to the raid on Nexus's former headquarters that Zem and Shar performed. Some highlights from this. Weird, seemingly undead people who were not undead but seem to be corrupted by whatever this force is visiting Vela. The Hand of Candle, which is the mage hand
cool.
carrying the candle.
Still need to make that a t-shirt.
Yes, you do. Hand of Candle.
You should put it in French.
The creepy skin monster that you guys fought in the final room, which basically meant that
was my
episode
bad. That was my
69 just became a giant dick joke, and I am
Mhm.
not sorry for it.
Nope.
And yeah, we ended it with the weird skin wiener looking monster dying from Shar's radiant queef. And it will never not be funny. This was the peak of the show. Get it?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
And I don't think we'll ever top this.
Heyo.
But
We can't top it, but we'll go lower.
I think it was more the bottom side, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much else to say here. What do both of you think happened here? You had some detective moments while you were in the Nexus headquarters. What are you guys thinking about the stuff you learned here? What's going on with all these weird corrupted things?
Do you mean with Nexus?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just think that, we know Nexus was a front.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that they were doing experimentation with, like, all of the, what the fuck is that word? Aberrant horrors? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, infiltrating the local, fauna.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to put that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically what I think. They were just, like, yoinking people off the street, locking them in a basement, seeing how it went.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's roughly what was happening. I also thought, maybe it was just my memory, but I thought the door was, like, extra planar. Like, it was
There was a weird extra
yeah.
planar door to get into the space.
So I thought that was weird, because how many more doors do they have?
Mm-hmm. And who could be creating these doors? Because we know that people don't really have a lot of magic like this.
And who
Right.
have all the keys? Like,
Who has all the keys?
Oh yeah, we did have to pick that lock, didn't we?
We didn't pick the lock. We found the key. We found the key because we have both.
Right, right, right.
Mhm, mhm.
But horrifying prospect that
Mm.
somebody is hiding how powerful they are on an exponential level, as opposed to being like, yeah, we're strong wizards. Somebody's pretending to not be a wizard at all and is able to conjure that shit.
Yeah. It's almost like there's godly intervention,
Mm.
right?
A little bit column A, a little bit column B.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Next up, we had episode 70, Sibylline Questions. This is the infamous corned beef carrot pot pie episode.
Mm-hmm.
We
All the
fucked up.
carrots.
So many carrots, like 15 pounds of carrots,
We cooked good.
were harmed in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And Zem busts out all of her divinatory tools to figure out that Adria's probably been spying on them, which you probably knew. Um,
Not that weird.
And I think the biggest confirmation you got from there is that Adria needs at least one of you to help her kill her sister. You get a little bit of lore drop about the Sibyls whenever Shar asks Kai, basically that they were some sort of divinatory cult.
I think we rolled real low on that too, for the
I can't.
Sibylline stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't remember
I'm not
those,
talking.
but
I'm not talking now. I mean before.
yeah, and I know Kai rolled a history check, and she had at least heard of the Sibyls. But that is really the most information you got, is that they were some sort of divinatory cult. How interested is Zem in learning more about that?
Very, but also as a buzz in the back of her head, because there's just way too much imminent, like, there's too much of the problem in front of her that she needs to deal with now,
Mm-hmm.
that it's not a whole lot of, like, planning for the future.
Yeah.
It's planning to not die today, is really taking the forefront. But that being said, like, if she has 2 seconds to stop, consider, whatever, it's definitely interesting for her.
Interesting.
Because I feel like it will also be validating, you know, being a not respected branch of her school previously, to having all this talent in this area, and then having a whole cult that's, you know, potentially really powerful. Like, of course that's appealing for her.
Zem the cult leader. I could see this.
It'd be weird. I think
Mafia,
now that I'm like in hindsight
cult, queen of the world.
God. In hindsight, it is weird that in death, Dalius has essentially catapulted the school of divination to a higher standard within that school.
Yeah, and that started, like, the wind up started with every action he took to get to his death, and then his death launched it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it was just
It's true. And from there we go to episode 71, which is a much more Shar-focused episode, The Child.
fuck.
Where we finally got to meet this holy child we've been hearing about since episode 1. We found out that Shar's old friend, mentor, and boss, Gideon, was the one who was keeping the child, Farius, safe since he had been disappeared from, and now I'm forgetting the name of the place that he disappeared from. Tell Nim. Thank you. You got it.
My brain blanked hard.
We learned that he was, in fact, abducted by Nexus, but Gideon, being the former Grand Keeper of the garden, was easily able to infiltrate and rescue the child, has been keeping him safe ever since. And we learned the child actually does not have any powers. This is a faith healing situation. And this really struck a chord with both Zem and Shar, because you find out all the horrible things that happened in this child's life because of these assumed powers, because they thought he was one of you. I want to talk about the impact on both of you in these moments.
There was a small amount of jealousy. There was a small amount of, like, relief, too, because, like, first, well, I guess it's first relief. Like, thank God. Like, you're not going to be hounded your whole life. But then also, I wish that that was the same for me, too.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. I'm so tired. But yeah, I and then just a lot of protective vibes, caring, you know, for this kid that has gone through so much.
I think it's a little bit similar, but it was more of a reflection on like the world's perception and how they communicate with each other, which is like they are essentially it's a power struggle thing, which is if they can acquire the power, then they will do that. They will do so at all costs,
Mm-hmm.
even if it is not realistic. It felt very much like a war allegory for me, more than anything, I think. And it's a horrifying perspective that you have to essentially get the power of a grand keeper to keep a child that has no power safe. And that we, because we have power, can keep ourselves safe to a certain extent. It sucks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For Shar, seeing Gideon again and having those hard conversations with him, and then having that all culminate in Gideon asking to continue Shar's tattoo, because even though Shar was thrown out of the garden, Gideon now sees the two of you as basically the only remnants of what was good in the garden.
Or what should have been.
Or what should have been
Yeah.
in the garden. How was that?
I think it was more of a respect thing that if even if anybody else, and by anybody else I mean the previous Grand Keeper before Genevieve's
Ulrich?
yeah,
Mhm.
before Genevieve's revolt, like I think even if Ulrich had offered, I don't think Char would have taken it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just something about his relationship with Gideon that is it's such a big respect thing for him. Because in Char's mind, yeah, his parents raised him, but Gideon's the one that kind of prepped him for everything that has happened.
Yeah.
That if he felt that if he had not taken it, then what was the hope for the ideals of the garden to be? And they would have essentially faded away in time.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting question. So, let's say that something comes along and all the problems are fixed right now. And Shar gets to return back to Vela, and he's not some godly being. He's just Shar again.
It's just a guy.
He's just a guy, okay?
Hit him
And
with your car.
Gideon and Gideon approaches Shar and says, "Look, I want to restart the garden. I want to rebuild, and I want you to help me." Do you think Shar could go back there?
It would be a limited time thing, like year tops.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a very much a secretarial role. It would be I will help you prepare and get these people in order and put people in dorms, and that is it. He has no intention of becoming any of the leadership of the garden, but he wants it to succeed.
Yeah.
I have an opinion.
I want to hear your opinion.
Fuck those guys.
No, actually, I think that if that were the case, I think the key word in your response there is intention. I do think Char would stay. I think that
I'm saying that as of right now.
No, I get it, but what I mean is what I envision for the future in my divinatory prowess is that, you know, he would ask and you would say one time only. And I think that whatever he would do, because I do believe that he has very good intentions.
You mean Char Gideon?
Gideon.
Yeah.
And so I think that Shar would go and like what he sees. And I think that you would avoid leadership positions, but I also see you being there to ensure that, like a guard, like
Mhm.
a
I also think that it would shift if Gideon took back over, seeing where it ended up after what it was, knowing, and we've talked extensively about what the garden was prior.
Yeah.
It would be more. It would be less of a military presence like it is now,
Yeah.
and there probably would be a forge, and it would be a place of. It would essentially turn into a library more than.
I think this is where the honor and all of that character stuff that is so ingrained in Shar and also Gideon would really ensure that it would be what it was meant to be before it got corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is that yes, his parents loved him and raised him and taught him of the world, but Gideon's the reason that he learned how to live it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think he has that amount of respect for him,
Yeah.
because Gideon will outlive him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Depends. We don't know.
On a natural timeline, Gideon will outlive him.
Unless you're both gods and you don't die.
Great, yeah, because that's. You said I just come back as some guy.
Well, that's true. If you were to come back as some guy, he would outlive you. The most horrifying thing for millennials to be told. You will live forever.
I want to get off.
I will say though.
What have you done to me?
I will say though that one of the hardest things for me when I was world building here was that I knew that I was going to corrupt many of the things in both of your backstories.
All of them.
Not all of them. Your parents are wonderful. Not Zem's, but Shar's.
Name one.
But I will say the hardest choice for me was when I decided what I was going to do with the garden, because I love Shar's vision of what this place was in the past.
So
what
many
it could be
hours
now.
Of time wasted.
No, I don't think it's wasted.
Oh, no. I mean, literally, there was weeks of in real time that I was just like, we bounced back and forth to describe the exact structure of the garden, the education system, who was part of it, and you're just like, I love it.
This is the major difference between Arthur and me, is like when we were building our respective pieces of the world, you know, Leah had mentioned like all of this structure, like political structure and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, there's a school. It looks pretty. Here's what it looks like. I'm in it.
I'm just imagining you with a piano on a highway.
I mean, we developed things, but like, it was funny to me because she was like, all this stuff that Arthur has given me, and I was like, do you want me to do that too?
No, you two have very different strengths when it comes to world building. With him, it's like building this hierarchical structure for the garden and these ideas of what it was. It was wonderful. With you, it was like you made this beautiful map of like the campus of Stellium and the world map of Vela and stuff. And so like I was just getting very different inputs from the two of you, which was
But I think that also
awesome.
makes it more realistic as well.
Yes.
Is because it's not as rigid as the way that I see the world, and it's not as free as the way that you do.
Yes. But that's what I was saying was like I knew I knew that place, the garden, in all of its goodness was, and it's like centrally located to where I was where we were in the beginning and where we were going in the very beginning, and I was like, this is such a good place for this to be like just blowing up out of, right? And these moments with Xander and with Genevieve, like when you guys first actually went there, and I was like, oh my god, they're like in the wolf's den of all the things that I'm planning. And then the dramatization we did with Albus in the library and getting murdered, and
so good.
It unfolded in this beautiful way. But there was definitely this part of me that was like, I feel so bad because I took this thing that was so important to Shar Arthur and I just
Sharther,
the
if you will.
the
Sharther.
Sharther, and the core was just rotten.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
core was just
Well,
rotten.
the courtroom scene, I think, was the last beacon of hope for that place.
Yes.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
Because essentially it unfortunately showed that Albus was a threat to the darkness,
Mm-hmm.
and Ulrich was essentially, you hinted very, very heavily that he was going to die.
Yeah.
Like, recognizes, like, I knew immediately. I was like, this is not what you think it is. We are not safe here.
Oh yeah. Zem had like a thing for Genevieve from the very beginning.
Oh,
And
Genevieve? Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like Genevieve came in and was trying to
Hi!
like work
Nope,
over Zem.
that's the wrong tone.
Zem was like, absolutely not. I hate you.
I would like you more if you slapped me to start.
Yeah, and like Zem's bullshit detector with Xander was like off the chain as well. She was like, I don't fucking like you. I can tell there's something good in there, and I see why he likes you, but I don't trust you, man. And
I think the irony of that is that yes, he was bad ultimately, not like inherently,
yes,
but he probably was the reason we walked out of there safely.
he 100% was the reason you walked out of there safely.
Right, and that's the only reason why Zem never went hard. The only reason.
Yep. We got so off topic talking about things from last time, but like, my God,
Last
this
time?
is such a good
That was
conversation.
like 60 episodes ago.
Well, I was then thinking about the last time Shar
Yeah.
sees Xander whenever he's in the window and he tries to save Shar at the expense of Zem, and
Great scene.
what a great scene. Okay,
Where'd
let's
you
go
go?
to
Out the
72.
window.
Who has
That bitch.
72?
Me. Okay, so 72 was the Star, the Tower, and the World. And it's funny to me, as an individual who very much enjoys tarot, that the final card, the future card, is the World, because this episode is so full circle. It's incredible. So the episode starts with Zem nearly touching the orb. Like, that's how we start this episode. And only stops because Shar was able to jump in front and slap her silly and move her out of the way. But it did immediately plunge us into battle with that spidery thing that came on the ship. And worse for Shar, it was clear that you were their favorite type of snack. So discuss, like, how do you feel about that, Arthur? Fighting a spider.
So Shar is not afraid of spiders. It is awful that I am.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene later on that she's like, "Are you good?" I'm like, "I mean, technically Shar is, but I'm horrified right now." Anytime spiders are involved, it's really hard. That's like the one thing that I can't disassociate characters with, because I am
Face
so
tears.
horrified. Yeah, so horrified of spiders that it does not work.
Yeah.
That if spiders were humanoid size, I would just be dead. Nope, I don't care. Enough of that shit.
Okay, we'll move on. So from there after, there's been, we all know that our girl Zem is very flirty. She flirts with everybody. It
Really?
99% of the time means nothing. But I think we really start to see the effects of flirting with someone who might reciprocate feelings. Or I guess not reciprocate feelings, but have feelings, and what that starts to be, because we see them lead Dashar on here. And Kai confronts her on that. And I, like, personally, as a player, I mean, I know she's my character. I admire so much about Zem, but I kind of hate this. It's destructive, and, like, it started as a goof, but, like, now it's just part of our personality. But it's sad. Like, it's and especially with Dashara, because Dashara is so genuine. Like, she's very upfront about everything. I mean, yeah, she's trying to play cool, but, like, she's,
I would argue that is what separates Zem from her mother, is that she would not have cared to think about the ramifications of her actions in any capacity. You're very headstrong and you go like, yeah, fuck you, I'm out. Like,
yeah.
But you have a conscience
Yes.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You may still walk into that, but
Right.
not at Mach whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and that is very true. I mean, she does recognize, not always when she should recognize, but she does recognize her faults, and, she wants to change and be better. And that's definitely something her mother would never have done. But, just Jen looking at the situation, sometimes in the middle of it, I'm like, I have the ick. um, so then further in this episode, we also see that Lou Teo starts to be the mad scientist. And he starts with his experimentation, which I think is really kind of fun. But while he's doing that, Zem convinces Lou Teo to do the tarot reading, which is where we get the title for this episode. And when he agrees, she makes it a whole experience for him and like sets up and all this kind of stuff. And she talks about his past, and she talks about how, things are so crazy right now. And that's what the Tower card is it's saying like, hey, like the things that you thought were the best for you were not, and they're kind of being torn apart right now. But here's the World card where, it's so full of hope and promise. And the reason why that is so full circle is that we are cut off by the sound of screaming, because Zem managed to not touch the damn orb, but Char did.
Yes. Yes.
So, I don't know. For me, it was like, just, this is where we start. We had this conversation earlier, but this is where we start down that path of from Zem's perspective. This just feels so hopeless. Like, they started this journey full of like, yeah, let's go, and like, we've got to try and stop this, and now she's like, this is overwhelming.
I think for me, this episode is one of the examples of like the dice have a story to tell that is going to stick with me probably forever. And the reason being is because we do not pull those tarot numbers prior.
Nope.
We don't.
Can you imagine if we did? It would be so much easier.
It would be so much easier, and we could tell a story that's exactly what we wanted. This is what we want to come up with, but we don't. We roll them live in the episode, and there are times where like it'll take Jen a little bit to like formulate her response because she has to actually do the reading, and so we just cut that out, and so it might seem seamless, but it's not. Like, there is prep work that comes after that, saying like, okay, well, this is what we rolled cards wise, and this is what it's going to mean.
Well, there's two things. Sorry, I'm going to cut in.
No, go ahead.
There's two things happening there. So, like, anyone that does tarot that listens to this podcast, those are legit tarot interpretations. Like, I am not just making things up for the world. So I'm starting with the base with like a legitimate interpretation, and from there I then have to make it fit our world. So that's why it takes a little bit of time, because I need to put it into phrasing that makes sense. Like, I'm not going to talk about there's in the real world, there's tons of pantheons and religions and whatnot that exist, and tarot takes and builds and uses, and I can't, I won't use that in our fantasy world, because I need to use the pantheon that exists in our fantasy world.
Yes.
Just one example of many things. Like, you're not going to talk about like a big orb sun in the sky when that's not what we experience in our world. So taking those interpretations and interpreting them further into our world, it takes a minute, but we do that on the spot, because we just never know what we're going to get.
Yes.
And even like, I rolled the same number twice.
Yes.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
And then a perfect 100 to follow. Like,
yeah,
that was a wild roll.
Yes. And you also have to remember that Jen doesn't have knowledge of what's coming down the road either. So she takes this, she makes the interpretation, she makes it fit our world, and then what she says becomes canon in the universe of this world in a way that then I and the rest of the NPCs and the things that are happening start to move forward, right? So this is like, doing this the way we're doing it is really cool. It's also very time consuming, but I think it's helped shape our world in a way that, again, feels super dynamic. And I just have to point out that whenever this reading, when it came up, the star, which is Shar's card, the tower, which is like, the tearing down of something to make way for something else, and the world card, I had goosebumps.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Because I knew in that moment, Char's about to touch the orb, this like world-ending thing that he could do. And meanwhile, Zem has this interpretation for Luteo that also fits him, but it's like the cards are screaming, the dice are screaming at what is happening in the world right now. And it was just this serendipitous moment that I think, like, again, never in a million years am I going to forget that, because it was crazy.
Yeah. So that takes us over to episode 73, which is The Darkness Within. And so this episode picks up immediately from the stupidity of the crew of this ship. And we find ourselves fighting Dark Shar. Arthur takes over Lateo while Leah tortures us with our favorite hero. But Zem throws a magical Hail Primus. We're going to say it that way. Hail Primus.
Hail Primus.
And cast Counterspell for the first time. How bad did you two freak out? Whenever I was like, meh, let's cast that.
In the moment, I was like, I didn't freak out. I opposite of freaked out.
Okay.
Because in that moment,
oh my God.
I knew what was about to happen. And I had already planned it, and I knew that this was going to be an overwhelming fight for the rest of the people on this ship. And I expected there would be many casualties from this moment. But when you counterspelled and stopped the summoning that was about to happen, Zem legitimately saved many lives in that moment. And that was like, so for me, it was like an, oh, thank God, because as bloodthirsty as I come across at times, like, I was not, the NPCs on this ship.
What have I done?
And the PCs on this ship are people who I love very much.
Yeah.
And having to say goodbye to multiple of them was going to be very hard.
How did you feel?
So relief, just a shock of, oh fuck, we're that powerful already? Because I'm just like, yeah, counterspell.
Yeah, and that's, Zem has her go-to moves, we know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, like, I think starting in 73, maybe it was 70, I don't remember, she starts experimenting with some of her powers.
I think it was 73.
And then, new spells, because I remember recently us going through, like, well, what does that look like? You've never done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And so, explaining how it's still Zem, it's still got that Zem flair, but it's, just not things that she really would have expected. And, luckily for us, it was successful. Because let me quote Leah here, it made it easier. But this was not easy. It wasn't easy at all. It wasn't emotionally or physically or metaphysically easy. So
I was dying.
You did die.
You did die.
So Arthur, what was it like giving over control of your character?
I hated it because I play my character less efficiently. And also, I think the other thing is it's kind of hard to watch a character that you have watched or become so ingrained with from the eyes and perspective of a different person.
Yeah.
Which me taking over Lateo.
Right.
For that period of time. I'm like, yeah, I get to play a wizard. Oh.
And then Leah, are you capable of remorse? I'm just kidding.
I'm not, are you?
and you already really answered this, but just, how worried were you that we would all need to roll characters?
You came into that session when we were upstairs before we came down. You're like, hey, you'll probably die.
Yeah, I was really scared. And I mean, we see we see really like why I was scared later in episode 77 when Zem goes toe to toe with Nex, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But I am not necessarily a believer that fights always have to be scaled to the people in the fight, right? This was an example of, okay, you're not going toe to toe with a god on his own turf at full power, but you are possessed by something that is very capable and probably will wipe you off the map, right? And so I had talked to Arthur prior and I said, look, like, you're probably going to lose control of Shar in this moment, and Shar's probably going to kill a lot of people on this ship. If you don't want to do this, we can not do this, and I'll find some other way around it, and there will be other horrible consequences. But like, and this is where like this becomes like a big trust exercise, right?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people would not be chill with this, and a lot of people would not be okay. But you know, I know these people very well, and we're all sort of like, yeah, this is a shitty moment, but it's for the story, right? And we saw how it turned out, right? Like, Zem literally saved the day with that counterspell, and, you know, Shar did come back from that moment, but emotionally, man.
And like, let's talk about the fact that we're saying that Zem saved the day. She had to do so by she killed Shar. She killed Shar.
Yes.
And again, you know, going back to the title of the previous episode and that world card and things coming full circle, we have been told from day one that one of us was going to end the other one. Like, and the fact that, you know, Zem had to kill Shar was so spirit breaking for her. And she spent the remainder of the episode basically just bursting into tears at random moments. Like, she had what, I don't think that she is willing to recognize it, but she had faith in something that it would be okay, or I don't think that she would have gone forward with that. But she's not ready or willing to recognize that she's got faith in something else.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, and like, fucking dice rolls, man, because I rolled a nat 20 on that bitch. Like,
You did.
a nat 20 to hit Shar. Like, goddamn. And then also, okay, so was this the one or was it a different? It was a different one. Never mind. It's the next time you die.
The next time you die.
Yeah, but yeah, so
But one more.
oh
and I
no,
get a
no, it
free
was
death.
this one. So I roll the nat 20, hit you, you go down. The thing ends, combat ends. I am screaming, like, for anyone to come help. I forget that I can save. Like, I forget that I can heal.
Yeah.
But before I can even get to that point, Leah has you roll a death save, and you roll a nat 1.
Yeah. So immediately dead.
Uh-huh.
Bruh. So that was crazy. And then we finish up that episode by Zem getting her master's in carpentry and creating an outhouse, or that little gate thing,
Somehow.
the cage for the orb.
What a great moment. What a great way to end that episode.
Well, actually, that it actually ended on Zem and Dashar's first date.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
So
Hilarious. But yeah, this episode, this was probably one of the most stressful episodes that we've done so far. Even worse, like when we were going into the end of Arc 1, I knew that giant combat was coming and we were going to lose NPCs, and we were like, and there was a lot of different battlegrounds, things were going on. That was stressful from a different perspective, because it was like there's just a lot going on. But because it was the end and we knew like things were coming, I was like more prepared for it. But this moment, it sort of like snuck up and then sort of exploded in this crazy thing, and I was like not prepared for it. And so by the time we got to the end of it and things were resolved in a way that wasn't horrible and we were actually okay, I felt like I could finally unclench. Like, whew, thank God.
Well, then that leads us into episode 74, Something Isn't Right. In this episode, we see our first glimpse of the big presence. I think we also called it the living rock planet, out in the distance. Shar learns to fly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Shar and Zem have another heart to heart, and shocking to nobody, Zem doesn't handle it well. Um, the team discusses what to do about Kai and her strange behavior. Um, so I think everybody had noticed and had made little comments about Kai's behavior up until that point. But after, like, her missing an entire crazy ass combat and coming out of her room right there and what's happening was so like, what the fuck, man? That like it was you can't ignore it anymore at that point. Um so that's kind of where that started. Um Zem and Deshra have their second date. This was the cinnamon roll episode.
Oh, this was such a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cute.
Cinnamon rolls.
And Luteo plays more of the mad scientist and starts to show Shar some of his developments, and this is where he also tells you that he is disposing of the samples.
I think I've had the biggest, like, God damn it, like, eye roll of my entire life during that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Luteo is my example of a high intelligence, low wisdom character. Yeah. And he's just so good.
So
like,
funny.
he has a negative wisdom score. Like, he's just so
You told
good.
me that when I built his character for combat, too, and I'm like, oh no.
And so, like, on that end, science doesn't often have, like, a seat when you're looking at a fantasy setting, when you're playing, you know, any kind of tabletop game. Do you think that we're doing a good job of, like, pulling it in? Because there are things that we approach from a scientific angle, like when we're talking about the samples and testing the blood and all that. Or do you think that it doesn't mesh?
For me, I approach science in this way, very much from an alchemical pseudoscience sort of way, right? Yeah. Like, if this was actual science, there'd be like a more controlled environment and he'd be like more methodical about this. He's literally just like, let's dump shit together and see what happens. Oh, that's scary. Throw it out the window, right? That is very much how I picture what Luteo is doing.
I like imagining, especially in this setting and D&D in general, and any fantasy RPG that you get to play, is that science is the 2D level and magic is the 3D. Which is like, there is, with the removal of the 3D perspective, things will happen the way that they do. However, then you're looking at a different plane with the level of magic.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Well, I mean, like, even in the real world, like, I believe in magic, but I believe in magic in the way that, like, sunsets are incredible. Like, they're magical. It's your viewpoint and not, like, I'm gonna wave this wand and speak a spell. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it's that. So I definitely, I get that viewpoint. With that, I feel like with the experiments in this episode, it sort of highlighted more of the base differences between Shar and Zem. Like, not the personality differences, but like with this blood and the way that, you know, it wants Shar, does not, like, is repelled by Zem. Do you think that this is going to lend to driving any kind of wedge between Shar and Zem? Or do you think that this is just what is giving them their strengths and further, like, shoring up the fact that, like, they can cover more with these differences?
I think that
there's a play it cool face on Leah's face right now.
Sometimes you get asked a question.
A very political answer.
No, I think that there are a lot of forces in this world that have been trying to drive Zem and Shar apart. There are deities at play who want to drive a wedge between the two of you. There are political things that have been going on, and just regular ass people and events and, you know, all different kinds of things. And this illustration at a molecular level of your differences was very pointed. But then maybe it's in the next episode or the episode of that, when we see what happens when you're actually brought together. There's two things happening, right? It's showing what happens. That there's this, you are different. There is a divide here. You can be driven apart. And then there's also, but what happens if you don't, and if you're not driven apart? And that is sort of what those two things were illustrating.
I think that's either in 75 or 76. I don't remember what.
Okay.
It's not in 74 though.
Okay.
And then, so like all the serious stuff aside, right? This episode was ridiculous to record because this was the brother cousin friend, and it was also the you can touch me episode.
See, that was the high, that was the peak, I think. That was the point where you're just like, this is better than the Shawshank.
Jen and I were just on a different level that day with the banter.
I also think that was the last episode we recorded for the day as well.
Probably.
If I'm remembering correctly, I believe that, and usually the last episode that we recorded, if you start lining them up that way, you're like, oh, they get way worse.
Well, usually we've had like a bang or something by then, and it's,
the bang's starting to wear off, or we've eaten Chinese food and tried to come back and record again, and
we've
then
never learned that at all.
Bloated.
Yeah. So that was ridiculous, and really, it was fun, but
brother, cousin, friend.
We do discover Kai's been hiding things from us and start to understand it. It's not just a simple matter of her being tired or not feeling well, but a much bigger issue that we need to deal with. And we end the episode when Zem casts remove curse on Kai. Yep.
Both Zem and Shar were literally about to do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was another Hail Primus.
It was. I enjoyed that moment very much. It was funny because Zem did this, and I was like, well, we're going to cut there because there's a lot to unpack with that. And then I looked over at Arthur, and he looked like that kid who, like, somebody stole the last cookie or something. Like, I was about to do that, damn it!
You shit in my Cheerios.
Yeah, it was a good moment. I'm glad you were using the same brain cell.
We only have the one.
Sometimes we share well, sometimes we don't. And then episode 75. So this one is You're Not Kai. And we start this with immediate after effects, I guess, of casting remove. Holy crap. Casting remove curse. And, we are met with that opposition. There was a lot of Shar death. There were, I think, 3, maybe
3,
more.
Yeah.
Down, up, down, up, down, up.
It was very much that Doctor Strange moment. Dormammu, I come to bargain.
Yes, it really
Splat.
was. It was. Yeah, that was rough. I mean, and it was so close to the last time that Shar almost died that I feel like it starts to be desensitized. Like you're just
How was it? Oh, thanks.
I've
see you next
died
week.
before. I'll die again.
The barbarian joke where they just died like, oh, hey, Frank.
Yeah.
I just to tell you my episode description for this was, ever seen an exorcism in space? Did you know Arthur plays the guitar? Hold on to your butts.
That was that episode.
You did play the guitar for
Amazing
this
Grace.
episode.
Very appropriate.
I just remember sending that message to you like, hey man, do you want to play Amazing Grace on the guitar and plug it in here? He's like, bet. It was so good. Yeah, I will take some of the responsibility for for how rough this went. I forgot to remember that
sounds like the meme from oh my god, dragons, Game of Thrones.
Oh, Game
Holy
of
shit.
Thrones. Yes. Well, I did have a moment here where I was like, I forgot how poorly you both roll sometimes. And I was really scared you were both about to die.
Well, I mean, and towards the end, like the actual end, Zem does have Dashara run off and help
Kai.
and then she runs over to, I'm with Char. Live or die, we're going together. So
Yeah.
they gotta quit doing that.
Oh, it happens a lot.
I know.
Well, I think that you both dying together is probably the best outcome for the universe.
Gee,
Yeah.
thanks.
Well, one of you surviving and the other one dying leads to this whole, like, evil Shar or Zem moment that...
So here's the deal with evil Zem. I can't speak for Char. Evil Zem is evil to everyone equally. So, like, she's not gonna side with one of those motherfuckers.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean she's gonna do any good for anyone else.
No, I picture Zem just taking the helmet, putting it on, steering the ship directly for the hub, and just taking the fight to the gods
Fuck off.
for
guys.
letting this happen.
Now I want to do that.
See, I told you. That's what I picture.
But like with that, get back in the ship. We're turning this fucking thing around. No, I was more picturing driving it directly into the sun column.
Where are you guys going? The sun column?
Yeah. We're going Zem, no! It's like that Austin Powers scene where he's like, I'm gonna get run over, and the thing's moving at like 5 miles an hour.
See, I went Deadpool with the Zamboni.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I picture Dark Shar. So Zem, okay, this is where I see the fundamental differences in their revenge arcs going. I see Zem just immediately like, nope, this does not stand, and I'm gonna end you all right now. Shar, I feel like there's just still too much of this like duty like embedded in him, where he'd be like, God damn it, I agreed to help you people, but like there's a score to settle, right? That's what I think feel
Shar
like for him.
is ultimately more dangerous because he thinks he has morals.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Zem has no illusion.
Yeah,
to that
which
effect.
again, like you even said it, like you would treat everybody equally.
Yeah.
Shar wouldn't.
Yeah.
He thinks he has morals. He would treat the people that deserve to die, and the people that wouldn't. It would be a cataclysmic event.
You know what's funny is
lawful evil Shar.
Before you said that, the picture in my mind of the two of us was that Zem would keep Shar's corpse with her because she would constantly be looking for a way to save you until she ended everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then Char would lay her to rest in whatever way was the most appropriate for her, and then quietly go off and live a loner life and never like talk to anyone else again, and just until the end of your days, and never help, never do anything. But like,
oh, he pulls like a Luke Skywalker.
yeah,
and
like a
just
go
goes
fuck yourself.
and
Everyone
lives on
you
a planet
figure
and
it
drinks
out.
weird
Yes.
milk for
I
the rest
still
of his
hate-
life.
I still hate that adaptation. I can't. I don't want to be angry about that right now. But I think I think of the Hogfather, which was like he would be searching for one iota, one atom of goodness within the world,
Mm-hmm.
and it would destroy him.
Wow. So I guess just like both of you don't die or whatever, because that's real sad.
Or die together.
Yeah, or die at the same time, just like.
Mm-hmm. I just, if we're not going to explode the world, I don't.
I don't want it.
I also think that there's a weird like linear parallel to the sibling relationship that we have versus what Nex and Nox have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dude, I already figured that shit out
I know.
when I was doing my recap. But that is essentially what would happen.
Yeah.
Is they would find a way to live, and if they could, then it'd be like, okay, yeah, everybody else is fucked.
Well, and that's why I think, and fine, we'll go into this, but I didn't really, that's why I think that Zem and Shar are in a unique situation to bargain and deal with Nox and Nex, because I think on some level, they can understand.
Yeah, Zem just can't get her emotions in check because she has no tools to fucking do that.
Yeah.
So if she can, and then she can fucking think logically in those moments, yes.
Yeah, because I feel like, if, in this situation we're talking about, if Shar was dead, if Shar was encapsulated in some kind of orb and stuck there forever, Zem would not hesitate to do anything in her power, in her wheelhouse, to try to get him out, right? And that's where Nox is right now. They were just they were just bad going into it, and they're still bad, but their reasoning
I
Well,
also
isn't that
think
hard to
it
understand.
probably stems from there is the theory out there, and you can cut this out if you want, if you don't want them to have an advance notice of it, is that we are probably the children of Nox and Nex in some capacity. And that is, again, for the reason of the governor to be implemented at all.
You can leave that theory out there. That's fine.
All right. Well, you're gonna change your mind here in 4 weeks.
No, what's happening is already set in stone. So
stone.
stone.
So
Good.
What are we doing?
yeah, and that's all I got for 75. That was
All
the
right.
big show.
On to Arthur in 76.
Oh, horrifying prospectus. 76 was radio. I'm gonna have to cut that again. God damn it. So we do not have the rights to the song.
What if you
At
just
all.
say it like it's radioactive?
Yeah, that I can leave in.
Radioactive.
Stop it. You're getting
No, you can only say it one time.
the razor edge right there.
But it's the tone.
Yeah.
Talking to my
So-
cow.
Did you say you're talking to your cat?
Your cow.
Talking to my gal wrong here.
Mash you in the face with a soldering iron.
I have one of those over there. Let's see.
Stab.
76. Radioactive. With Kai still asleep, Shar has a quick mental breakdown and searches through Kai's room to see if there were signs of possession before it happened, other than the obvious. Deshara has a convo with him about many things, but most importantly, that she took torture classes in military school, reminding
Oh.
that she is a cop.
Yes.
This giant ivory orb of death trademark is still floating in space, but seems to be getting further away at this point. Meanwhile, Lateo and Zem have a conversation over mac and cheese about Lateo's blood
Forgot
experiments.
about the mac and cheese.
Mhm. Yeah, he used prestidigitation to make it better. He believes that the reaction that they've been getting with the blood is actually biological and not magical. Shar and Zem assist Luteo in the experiments. They test Kai's blood, which proves that she is no longer possessed. Huzzah. And they combine Shar and Zem's blood, and it creates a gold liquid, which Zem immediately licks, where it is discovered that the combination of the blood has qualities of a healing potion, creating horrific implications for Zem's
Doing
relationship with a
What do
vampire.
you want from me?
Yeah. Shar returns to the top of the deck and has a heart-to-heart with Deshara about the future. She apparently may go into private security. During...
I'm sorry. All that is coming into my brain right now, and poor choice of words, is a three-way with the golden blood.
Power through. During this chat, it is revealed that there are a volcano and an earthquake volcanoes and earthquakes that are happening back home that are getting more frequent on Akaris. Shar then squirrel brains and returns down below to wake up Kai. Kai wakes up, screams, and then tells the group that the time that she was possessed, her consciousness was in like a dream-like place where the walls were of white marble. In this realm, she was having a conversation with someone who looked like Shar, and they stated that Zem has thwarted their plans and they were trying to not wake, quote-unquote, him. It is never explained who him was. Shar then gets pseudo-visions of the White Room Kai was talking about. We're not really sure what that was about. It has not been expounded upon. It has been a long day, and to keep everybody safe, Deshara is on watch. Kai stays in Zem's room. Zem stays in Shar's room. Shar stays on the couch, and Lateo keeps to his own room. End of episode.
This fucking episode.
Mm.
This episode was a shit ton of lore. But aside from that, it has the appearance of being like a fluff episode if you're not paying attention. Because the setup for the next couple of episodes, fuck off.
I think that the literally like 2 episodes before, we talked about the qualities and taste of a healing potion. And it was on complete accident that they were so close to each other, the qualities of them were. I'm real bad with questions.
No, I don't know that there's a ton of things that definitely, because we already sort of touched on the blood thing in episode 74, and I absolutely loved when Deshara was talking about what she learned in the orc army. Because I very much from the beginning wanted it to seem like at first glance like, oh yeah, like there's this weirdness with the orcs and it's probably because they're very stereotypical. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you some stereotypical. They have a big army, but guess what? They're not stupid. They're really smart. And they do have magic. But because they've been sort of blocked from getting any magical knowledge from places like Stellium and Annenfell and stuff, they've been doing it their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different, but it's cool.
And effective.
And
I think that episode 74, I think it was 74. They, like, yeah, it was a cinnamon roll episode because the reason why Zem got so worked up and then said, you can touch me, is because they're talking about her time there, and she was saying, like, what's the general's name? I want to kick the general's ass because of the way Zem feels like she wasn't being treated fairly, which is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that like, we started opening the door for those conversations and discussing the Verrotten army.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm glad that conversation took place with Shar, because of all the people on the ship, he probably is the one that understands the most about
Sure.
the orc, like the way that they live.
Yeah.
Some just would have been disparaging and you wouldn't have gotten anywhere.
Yeah. No, and I love that. I loved Ashara as a character because I think that she brings a lot to the table in how she interacts with Zem and how she's making Zem self-reflect on how she interacts with other people. And then with Shar, there are these moments where, like, Shar has, relationships with, like, Xander and people like that. So he knows a bit about how orcs live, and so he can sort of talk to her about that. He also has a pseudo-military background in what he learned in the garden. So she can kind of, mingle well with both of our PCs, as opposed to Luteo, who's just, he's special. He's like one of my favorite little guys right now. He's my special little guy right now.
Do you want me to fix your mic before?
No, it's fine.
Okay. 77, Zamira Kaltain. This is the first of our solo episodes. This is also the shortest numbered episode so far as of this recording. Zem wakes up. No one is on the ship. She's alone. She looks outside to see the sky is a deep, misty purple with some kind of dark thing floating around in it. She then hears an omnipresent voice she recognizes asking her to go to the top of the ship, which she ignores. Zem tries to message Shar, but only gets static, a failure. She then tries to summon her familiar Torah, which fails. She then tries to consult her pendulum to no avail. At this point, Jen realizes that she needs to roll portents for the day. This will be a helpful tool for later.
At this point, what the fuck does that mean?
This will be a helpful tool for later. She rolls a natural 20 and a 6.
Oh, don't bring up the natural 20.
There is some ship magical turbulence. I don't understand that one. That was on me. I also had brain damage that day, so there is a roll-off between Zem and the mysterious disembodied voice's wills. Zem loses and is essentially teleported to the deck of the ship facing the orb, which is no longer locked in its cage, and out of the orb walks, quote-unquote, Dalius. Whenever I say the name Dalius, assume that I am putting it in quotes. Dalius tells Zem that this is the opposite of a dream, a nightmare, and tells Zem he is asking for her help. If she refuses, she dies. Naturally, she refuses, so Dalius makes Zem fight a large humanoid void creature. This Dalius seems to have a massive amount of control around this dream/nightmare world. The fight is quick as Zem gains the upper hand with her Shadow Spawn summon, but Dalius dismisses the summon and immobilizes Zem. He tells Zamira, no more games, join me or die. Zem, of course, refuses. Dalius then kills Zamira. End of episode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Died screaming.
That's one of my favorite quotes.
That
too.
was so good.
So good.
And so utterly terrifying. There was no hope in this episode, like, at all.
Very void of hope.
Yeah, and I mean, like, she starts off in this, fuck off, man, I just need to not go up top. I'm fine down here. And then, like, poof. Well, I'm not downstairs. Um, yeah, it was a lot of none of this. There's no control. She has zero control here. Um, she is reactive instead of proactive about everything that's occurring. And I mean, honestly, like that's the way that it is for them a lot. But I think Zem, we have seen more episodes recently than not where they are in somewhat control. Um, and don't have a lot of these, like, if you remember way back to when we first started and it was just on the run and go, 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 and we can't even stop to fight. We're going to die if we try. So, like, run, run, run. That feeling
Yeah.
was back. It was very much like I'm gonna try, but like this is it.
We were just talking about this whenever we got here to record today. And the three of us were kind of talking about how these episodes went, and specifically Zamira's feelings on how it went, her, resurrection. We'll go there because we're going to talk about it. And, moving forward, how Zamira is feeling. And again, I just want to reiterate, like, the amount of trust that has to be at this table, because I know how frustrating it can be as a character or as a player to be level 1, feel well, I guess we didn't start we started like level 3 in this campaign, but to feel so powerless for so long, to start like feeling like you're in control, you're powerful enough, you're handling Adria,
Mm-hmm.
you have a shot, and then have the rug ripped out from under you and just be like, there's nothing in that moment that you could do. And I think that, like I said to you upstairs, that is what Nex is specifically trying to make Zamira feel. And I think it's so important in that moment to be able to be like, okay, but like, there has to be more, right? Because nobody wants to actually feel defeated before we're at the end of the story. But yeah, it was a rough moment. It was a rough moment
Well,
for
I
Zamira.
think my prediction. This is not like a how. Like this is not current, but my prediction is that through that, like we've seen Zamira come up against all kinds of shit. And her reaction every time is like, fuck you, I'm fighting. Fuck you, I will win. And now with this, because the choice was her death or Char's death, and it was laid out plainly. It was not laid out in the middle of combat.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't in front of her. She had no reason to believe that he was in any way, shape, or form safe. So yeah, she was saying I'm not agreeing, but like also uh, like I'm not just going to lay down and die either. I mean, she did, but you know what I'm saying. I think that letting go, that realizing you don't have control might benefit her. Because that's really what she needs in order to get her perspective. Like, get your fucking head on straight already. I think it's that understanding that, like, there's just some things you cannot do anything about. Hopefully, maybe.
No, I like that. I didn't think about it that way. And Arthur can speak to this a little bit more, but I think that that is one big difference between Shar and Zem that I have noticed. Zem is like, you're both like, we're going to go down swinging. But with Shar, there's almost like an acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I don't think Shar thinks he's going to live.
Yeah.
I think that deep down, Shar has already sort of accepted.
Yeah.
That he's probably not walking away from this. And I think Zamira will say that. Zamira will say, like, sure, yeah, like, we're probably going to die. But I don't think Zamira, like, actually felt that until that moment.
I agree. And it's because it wasn't just like I was knocked unconscious during combat. Because, like, yes, that happened, but it was the utter obliteration. It was the hit after hit. It was the you're not getting anything in here. It started with the I'm not going up, like as simple as I'm not going upstairs, and then she was just upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Like she had no choices here, and I think that realization is terrifying. But like, if I'm hoping that it will come to her that that's not always a bad thing if you embrace it correctly.
Those moments were actually sort of frustrating for me as well, though, because those roles to summon Tora, to stay downstairs, to to get a message to Shar that was like clear, those were not impossible roles.
Right.
Your dice were just
not about it
that day. And so, I mean, I don't think you rolled very poorly.
Very bad.
That whole time.
And I never roll that bad.
No. It was kind of shocking. And so I do want to make that point. Like, this was not me setting DCs at like 30 and being like, yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah.
It was like, hey, roll above a 15 for once. And
also,
it just would not happen.
Again, you said, like, let's not talk about the 20 and that, whatever. Yeah. But, like, I think that that's actually really important to talk about, because I specifically, like, at any point in time, I could have chose that role to stay downstairs and avoided all of it. But I didn't, because I just kept saying, like, there could be something worse. There could be something worse. And if you listen to this episode and not just the recap, right before I die, you will hear me say, I'm gonna risk it. Because I literally sat there and I thought, okay, here's where they are. Here's where I am. Here's the potential damage. Here's this. I think I'm okay. And then I very much was not. And, I could have said, like, hey, you fail, or I succeed. I don't remember what.
Yeah, it was you failed an intelligence save.
Okay. And I could have easily changed the outcome of that. And it, as a player, is a little frustrating in that moment. But after the fact, I was like, no, I'm not changing it. And it was like really shortly after the fact, because we did not play together.
So, I was upstairs watching baseball.
Yeah. So, like, Arthur was not with us because we did not want him to have that knowledge of what had happened, because these episodes technically are concurrent, even though they're listened to separately. So, I don't know. It was a lot of, I was frustrated for Zamira for a while after. But also it made for many good moments.
Yes, I agree.
I also think that helps illustrate, like, you felt powerless even with the amount of power you had. I think that was a very good indicator of, like, you had the power to literally change fate in either direction, and you didn't, because you didn't think about it.
I also, in my mind as well, there was this, because, like, the way Jen described Zamira in that moment, whenever Zem failed the save, I believe Jen said something along the lines of, like, Zamira just closes her eyes and she actually doesn't say anything. And so I felt there, like, because normally Zem would say something like catty, make a remark, like, but it almost felt like an acceptance moment, like, where Zem was saying, I'm not going to fight this.
Yeah.
I'm just accepting this moment as it comes, right? And that, yes, that's a huge, I don't know if I really want to call it growth, but there is, like, a moment of growth there for Zamira in the end, where she says, like, I'm not going to fight. Which is the first time she's ever done that.
Yeah.
And I think, so I've done as much as I could have to avoid listening to the episode as a whole, until you're like, hey, can you do the recaps for these episodes? I'm like, fuck. So even with editing the first time around, I spectral edited it, did not listen to it. So I'm just like, I don't want to know. And then you're like, hey, do it anyway. This is what I get.
Wait, the Zamira episode, or
the Zamira episode? That one I did not listen to at all. So the way that we do editing is we do the recordings. I take the files, I send them to Leah. Leah puts them together how she wants it, sends it back, and then I'll edit out some of the clicks or breathings, especially mine. And that's...
Hi, Amy.
I'm so frustrated. And then I'll send it back to make sure that I didn't miss anything. With that episode, most of my settings were already in place. I don't have to edit that much. I can look at the wave file as a spectral look, and I can recognize when mistakes happen. I sent it to you, and there was no mistakes.
Yeah.
So I'd done a very good job of not listening to that episode until this point. So 2 days ago, 2 days ago?
No, it was yesterday.
Yeah, fuck.
Well, it wasn't a lot of lore. It's
Mm-mm.
not like you learned
Yeah.
things you shouldn't have learned.
But I just didn't. I'd done that because I don't want to know how you experienced it, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But we jump over to 78, which is the second of our solo episodes, Charlemagne Vif Broom. Char wakes up in a similar situation to how Zem did, completely alone. He then receives a very brief message from Zem asking him where he is, and Char is unable to respond. There is not a soul around, and not a voice to be heard until a disembodied voice beckons him to go to the top deck. Where he goes, sees the orb is no longer locked away, and out of the form out of I'm not a voice actor. No longer locked away, and from out of the orb walks quote unquote Xander. Assume that I am using air quotes. Char asks if Xander is Nox. It is then revealed that the creature is actually Nex, who should still be trapped in the orb. Again, this is the beginning of my concussion protocol, not being able to remember names. Nex then tells him that this is a nightmare after he fails the what is the opposite of a dream question. And turns into a giant spider creature after I ask him to not be in that form. Leah likes to ruin my life. And then
Yes.
after that is asked to be changed, he turns into a nondescript man that you forget about what he looks like when you turn away. Nex then explains to Char how he came to be trapped in the orb. Nex and Nox's plans for a world of magic and freedom to determine fate by magic, and the freedom for gods to do as they wish. But doing this, they'd have to overthrow Primus. Char asks if that would be anarchy, to which Nex responds at the beginning. They then reveal that Adria has become a god and is trying to steal parts of the siblings' godly portfolios. Nex then asks Char for their help to kill the newly deified Adria, a baby god, as they say. But Char agrees to the ceasefire, which seems to be a good idea as the solstice is coming up, and once that happens, Nox will be able to show up in person and free Nex herself, as the agreements of the gods to stay out of the mortal realm will be over. Char is ultimately unable to determine the reason behind Nex's actions or plans, stating he just doesn't have the brains of Zamira. Nex offers a gesture of good faith for the purposes of proving that they want Char and Nex, want Char on Nex and Nox's side. An immediate transportation to Lyra is what is offered. No more space travel or dealing with its inhabitants. Char agrees, but it is immediately ruined by Nex revealing that he had just killed Zamira. Char asks how. He says, screaming. Placing more cards in Nex's hands, he then offers Char a modified deal. He'll still transport the whole ship and everybody on board and revive Zamira with caveats. The agreement is as follows. Nex will be able to, once, at any point, have full control over Char's body for 1 full minute to do so what they please. Nex will not kill Char or Zamira during that minute. Nex can take over Char's body at any point within 1 year, as soon as the dream ends. They will also be permitted. I really need my reading glasses. There will also be a permanent ceasefire on both sides until a time at which Adria is quote unquote handled, at which point they will have a renegotiation of the terms. Char asks him in his sister's opinion of Istin, to which he states he's just another mortal. Char agrees to the deal, and he wakes up. End of episode.
Size 24 font, my dude.
Yeah, I'm reading it off of Discord.
Yeah. Wow.
That episode was significantly longer to record because looking at your face the entire time made me giggle too much.
I put
your face in a laptop bag at some point.
Oh, that's okay. I was like, I hid my face. What did I hide it with? Yeah, I tried to put my whole head in the laptop bag.
Yeah.
Because I can't control my face. I could have gone upstairs, but I chose to stay down here.
There was a point in that episode where Shar asked what had possessed Kai,
Uh-huh.
and he rolled really low on insight, but Nex said that it was not him.
Yes.
Uh, do, is it ever going to be revealed what that was? Do you believe?
I think that there are clues where somebody could figure it out if they were paying attention.
Well, I'm fucked.
That's all I'm saying. Um, uh, it could come up again at some point if there is a good time for it. I don't have any specific plans to talk about it more, but that doesn't mean it won't come up. Um, but yeah, there's some interesting stuff with that. I really loved all the things that Nex was saying here because like he he's smart. He's telling truths and lies so smoothly intertwined together that it was very hard for Shar to pick out what was a full truth, what's a half truth, what's like a partial lie. Nothing he was saying was just outright falsehood, so it wasn't like there's a lie detector thing going off, you know? And
Well, that's not how we play insight anyway. Even
no.
through all of the episodes.
No. And the moment that he kills Zamira, though, and he goes back to alter the deal, and he's just very straightforward about it, and there are just these moments where you get this, like, he's a little insane, isn't he? Like, he's been trapped for 2,000 years in this ball with only his own thoughts to, like, keep himself company, and, like, there's just something not right.
I think there was he admitted that he had a fault of underestimating mortals as
Yeah.
well. That he said that Shar said that you don't believe much in mortals, and he's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And like you said to him later, like, maybe you shouldn't underestimate us. And he's like, no, you're right, because a mortal put him in that ball, right? Like, this is you've pointed out a fundamental flaw in at least Nex, potentially Nox as well, which is that they just don't think. Like, Istin is incredibly powerful. We know that. And what did they say about Istin when you brought him up? He's just another mortal.
And the reason I brought that up, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this, was that Shar had a belief that they were influencing him in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And that basically is just like, no.
Yeah, no.
He's beneath them.
He is beneath them.
And as powerful as Istin is, he is beneath them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I also think that Nex, you said to him whenever you asked him who he was for Zamira, and he said he was Dalius, you were like, you couldn't have thought that was going to go well. And he was like, yeah, no, probably not. And like, that in and of itself indicates that he came into both of these altercations with very different intentions, right? He told you that he was going to teach Zamira how to speak to her betters, right? There was probably no good outcome for Zamira because Zamira was not going to bow down and kiss his feet and make a deal with him. That was not going to happen. Shar wasn't going to do that either, but that's not really what Nex wanted, right? Nex wanted to start making some in-ground, start trying to like, oh, but like, let's talk, but then also just demoralize Zamira. Those were his plans.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Do you have an episode title for 79?
No.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
The Untitled.
On the
Episode
spot.
79.
79.
Untitled.
On the spot.
Okay, wait. Tell me the recap.
Okay. Episode 79, title to be determined. Shar wakes up, panics, and searches for everybody, eventually running into Deshara. Most of that actually starts to play out exactly as it did when he woke up in the dream world. Everybody is technically where he left them at the end of episode 76. He then punches his way into his room where Zem is, and she is lying face down on the ground and looks as if a tornado made its way through his room. Zem wakes up, having just been brought back from the dead, disoriented. Zem explains that it was the most pain she's ever been in, and then just nothing. Zem and Shar argue about Shar accepting the deal, and that she accepted that her death was a decision that she made. Shar then walks out to check on the rest of the crew. Zem and Dashara talk about Zem basically dying and the psychological repercussions therein. And Zem is tired of fighting, but cannot give up. Dashara gives Zem some advice passed down from her elders. The light and the dark come from the same place.
That's it.
The light in the dark.
The light in the dark, yep.
Shar looks for guidance through Amara, and she comforts him by telling him, "You didn't fuck up." And Amara reveals that some of the gods plan to run once the agreement comes to pass, but not all. Shar starts dropping hints about being transported to Lyra within a day. Luteo then asks to do some more experiments and mentioned that some monks can meditate and transfer their consciousness via essentially magic. Zem then gets pissed because she felt powerless during the meeting with Nex, but forgot her own power. Fire is reignited. Shara sends a message to Rafe telling him that they are alive and asking Rafe to ask Gideon about meditative teleportation. Rafe agrees. Shar talks with Kai, explaining the teleportation agreement, but then asks her to teach him some magic as they seem to cast magic similarly. During the training, Shar gains some new abilities, harnessing power from emotion. Zem digs through her notes, finding the lingering possibility of astral projection. And it is in quotes somewhere in your notes as astral projection. There's no other way around it. Zem and Shar apologize to each other, and Shar explains the exact details of his deal with Nex. Zem and Shar go experiment with Luteo regarding meditation. Luteo is surprisingly intuitive about astral projection theory, but terrible in practice.
Sounds about right. Super smart. Super dumb.
They then go to... Hold on, what the fuck? Why the fuck did I write it this way? They then go to the whole group and explain what is happening and the deal that he had made with Nex. By the estimates of Kai, the solstice is around 6 days away. The group then argue over the logistics about exploration of Lyra after the ship hits planetfall. They have one final night before they are transported to Lyra. End of episode, end of Cour. And I apologize, I can't read for shit. Even though I wrote it. And I'm like, why did I write that way?
Oh, good.
Perfect. Great. I did not remember a lot of that.
Yeah.
My God. Oh. Okay. Astral projection in this world. Okay, so Leah has to just say, and maybe this is a little spoilery, but this might not even happen. But when when that book came out, I was a little underwhelmed by it. But there's one spell in that book that I have been obsessed with ever since I read it, and that is Dream of the Blue Veil. I have been obsessed with that spell ever since then because, number one, it's like a 7th level spell, so like how frequently do you ever play a character that can cast that high level spells? Also, it's so niche because you have to like go to sleep and you have to dream and then you pull back this veil and you transport yourself through this veil into a new world. But the image of that in my brain has been seared in it ever since I read this spell. And I have been hoping for myself to play a character forever that could actually cast this spell, but it fits within this world so well. And by God, if somebody does not cast this spell by the end of this campaign, I'm going to be very depressed. And so this talk of astral projection, which is another spell, which is also cool and something that monks can do at higher levels. And, all these other teleportation spells are going to be on the table potentially by the time we finish Arc 2. But that's the one I'm really vying for.
Well, wouldn't that be very similar to what they're already doing, or Adria's already doing in Dreams?
Yes.
I mean, because what is a dream, but what is a dream but a different realm?
Yeah.
I think that was why we got the what's the opposite of a dream question wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because in our mind, it's very like catty corner to a nightmare.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just why we share the same brain cell.
Well, I think there is a spell that so there's Dream that lets you shape somebody's dreams, right? That's like a 5th level illusion spell. But yeah, like something like this that lets you actually walk into those dreams. So freaking cool. So freaking cool.
Yeah. I mean, because the number of times that Zamira has been asleep and affected not only in her dream, but like real world effects are occurring at the same time. Like when the black ooze seeps out, and when inevitably shit attacks Shar as a result.
What a good time.
We need the image of just a chalkboard with tally
Tally
marks.
marks.
Or like one of those, like, it's been X a number of days
Yeah.
since.
Czar.
Czar.
That's our name. That's our team name. Shar-related incidents.
Yes. But yeah, so, and Luteo's little panic about being left on the ship by himself, hilarious.
It's really hard to recap the hilarity of that conversation.
It's so good.
If you listen to nothing else from any of the other episodes because you're coming into this, go listen to like the last 5 minutes.
It's so perfect. And I'll be honest, there's part of the reason that was happening was because I, Leah, don't want to have 3 NPCs that I have to run in every altercation that we have moving forward once we leave this ship.
Oh, the irony.
But then as we started going into this conversation, like Luteo's little panic and sadness and like, I don't want to be by myself was so funny that like I was like, yeah, he's not going to give this up. Like this is the hill that Luteo doesn't die on because he doesn't want to be alone.
Allegedly.
The ship he dies on. I just personally don't trust that orb to be alone.
No, totally fair. Totally fair.
So.
I think that essentially part of the deal with Shar that he did not realize at the time and realizes now is that the agreements that were made were essentially to get the orb by itself.
Maybe.
But I'm not going to speculate too much more.
It could be.
I don't think I missed anything. I'm hoping to God I did not.
No, you guys did great with your little recaps. They helped me out. Normally, I sit down and I put all these little recaps of the episodes together, but I was crazy busy. So my homie stepped up and did the last 8 episodes, and I appreciate you both very much. Any final thoughts on Core 5 / the first half of Arc 2?
I think that it is funny that as our characters grow and change, they don't at all.
Mm-hmm.
They don't at all.
The same people at the core.
Oh my God.
The episode 76, when Kai was sleeping and recovering, there was an opportunity to notice something with Kai, and I nat one. Is that something that you can reveal, or is that something that will get revealed later?
We'll get it revealed later.
Okay. Because you're just like, you can notice something. It's not a high roll now. No, never mind.
No, never mind. She's just real sleepy. For me, my biggest takeaway is like, I hope that we found a way to make travel fun. That's one thing I didn't want was just 15 episodes of a slog. Lots of stuff happened. Lots of flashbacks, not backflashes, flashbacks.
That's a fire.
And we learned a lot about these people, and I can't wait for you all to make it to Lyra with us. Episode 80. We'll see you there. Bye, guys.
Bye.
I have to go to the bathroom. I'm running.
Oh my God, that was 2 fucking hours.
It was so long. We talked too much.
There was a lot to goddamn cover.
I don't think we're going to be able to cut almost any of that.
I know. It was solid.
Intro music by Isaac Vyers. Character designs by Cam Gonzalez. Produced by Leah Hemrick. Graphics designer Jen Kearney. And audio engineer Arthur Polino.